Hey everybody, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. During this time, Josh and I have taken a little bit of a step back to spend a little bit more time with our family and to get ready for the new year. So we have been re-releasing some of our favorite episodes over the last year. And this episode is a little bit of a different one because we actually will not talk a whole lot about video games. But Josh, I remember you and I recording an episode on pranks. We had an absolute blast, and I think we both thought it would be fun to choose this as one of the episodes to re-release.
Yeah, every now and then we try to keep things gaming oriented, but sometimes you just got to branch out a little bit. And little known fact, Paul, that people may not know about you if they haven't heard this episode is you are quite the prankster.
Yes, that takes people by surprise, and we do talk a little bit about that in the episode. But yes, I enjoy a nice, good prank where everyone can laugh about it at the end. So you guys will get to hear some great stories about me pranking my friends, including Josh pranking others, including me. You'll get to know a little bit more about us personally. I think it's just a really fun episode, and hopefully it'll just be a blast here for the next hour or so. And I think that's really about it. Anything else for this introduction, Josh?
I know if you're looking for a gaming episode, trust us, you don't want to miss this one. It really, really is good. And you might even get some good ideas from it. Don't worry. We will be back, very soon, right around New Year's with some new episodes and stuff like that. So don't freak out. This is just so we can spend some extra time with our families and enjoy the holidays, but we can't leave you all hanging. So we had to get something out there to you. And this is one of our favorites.
And spoiler alert, this is the episode where we talk about cowboy butts by far the most.
Oh, all right, maybe. Fair assumption.
So that'll be our little bit of a hook. You guys can listen for that, and we'll see you guys gaming. Have a good holiday season, everybody. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Multiplayer Gaming Podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to the podcast and rate us 5 stars. We are a family-friendly podcast that normally talks about the subject of gaming, and today would normally be a bonus round episode where we would cover a gaming topic, but today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Actually, maybe it's a lot different, but today we're going to be talking about pranks. And we'll explain why in just a minute here, but we do need some introductions. I am your host and prankster extraordinaire, Paul, and with me is my co-host, and like Michael Scott once said, "You've been X'd, punk." It's Josh.
Hey man, anytime you can work in an Office reference, that's good too. I am legitimately wearing my Schrute Farms shirt right now, so that was completely unplanned.
You sure are, and I did not even notice. I don't know what it is about that line from The Office. I mean, I could probably quote every line from every episode, but "You've been X'd, punk" is just so funny to me that whenever I think of pranks, that's the first thing that comes to mind. All right, so Josh, why on earth are we talking about pranks today? This is a gaming podcast. How did this come about?
I mean, honestly, it just kind of came about naturally. Everybody was just chatting in the Discord server today, and somehow the topic of pranks. Oh, I know what it was. I shared the fact that you had pranked me a while back. I think it started off talking about board games and stuff, and then that transitioned into, this one time when Paul was at my house, you played this prank on me, which I'm sure you will bring up in a little while. But that led to a phenomenal discussion on some of these just pranks that people have pulled off, pranks that you have done, pranks that I have done. And then we were just like, we've got a bonus round tonight. Let's just talk about, let's have fun, man. You know what I mean? Instead of having this, designed topic, we were like, dude, let's throw caution to the wind. Let's talk about some of our favorite pranks, some of the best pranks that we've done or experienced, and let's just have a good time.
Yeah. So when we did our listener questions episode, we had a chance to talk about some music. We had a chance to talk about some other topics. And I got some good feedback of people who liked it. So maybe we're flying too close to the sun, but at least for this one bonus round, we're going to just go completely off topic and dive into pranks. Now, when we're talking about the subject of pranks, Josh, what makes for a good prank?
I think the big thing is you have to know your target, right?
Yes.
Like some of the best pranks out there are the ones that both people are going to appreciate and enjoy, right? Like it's one of those things, like we just had Andy on the show, and we always joke about how Todd panned Andy in the back of the head when we were completely geared out in PUBG, right? Like this
Right.
comes up a lot because to you and I and Todd, that was a hilarious prank. To Andy, not so much at the time because he was the guy that got killed and was out of the match at that point, you know, and Andy, to his credit, took it fairly well the first time that Todd panned him. But when, you know, as friends do, we said, Todd, I bet you won't do it again. And Todd did it again. At that point, Andy got pretty frustrated, you know, rightfully so. But
Right.
we had a really good laugh. But I mean, a good prank is oftentimes subtle, right? But it doesn't always have to be. But I think the best ones are if you know your target and you know it's somebody that's going to genuinely laugh with you and appreciate it and laugh about it later on. Those make for the best pranks.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I have always said at the end of a prank, everyone should be laughing about it, including the so-called target. I have always hated pranks like unscrewing the top of a salt shaker. That way, when you pour it over your food, all the salt comes out and now your meal's ruined. Like, that's not funny to me. Or like, I remember in high school, I went to a high school party. Andy was actually on the wrong end of this prank also. But our friend Corey crushed up a bunch of Doritos in his hands and blew all of them into Andy's face. But Andy wears contacts. Yes.
Oh, no!
So he just blew all these sharp little chip shards into Andy's eyes. And Andy was like, what are you doing? So, like, I am not a fan of, it's just a prank, bro. Like, that's not the kind of stuff we're talking about. We're talking about good-natured pranks that are actually funny. I think the best ones require patience, maybe a little bit of time and effort, and hopefully we have some good ones here that we can talk about. You know, what's also funny is that, like you had mentioned, this was all going on our Discord server. So if anyone here doesn't know, if you support the show on Patreon by going to multiplayersquad.com, you can help support the show as little as $5 a month. And that gives you access to our Discord server where all of our listeners and me and Josh and others all come together and talk about gaming, occasionally pranks like this today. So if you wanted to, you could always check that out. And I think some people in the Discord were kind of surprised about my history with pranks because as the main host of this podcast, I do some more of the prep work and you know, I think you kind of have the role of just coming in and maybe sharing some funnier stories. I think some people were legitimately surprised that I've got this very long history of pranks.
Well, and I mean, you know, yes, you prepare more, but I did make the comment, and I like genuinely mean this, is like you have a phenomenal sense of humor, which is one reason that we're such good friends. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's hilarious to me because I think it's like you're a little unassuming. Like people wouldn't necessarily peg you as a guy that would pull off some of these masterful pranks. Like me, they're like, oh, Josh loves chaos and trolling people and all that. And I get it. You know, I'm always the evil guy in the board games and I'm instantly blamed if something goes wrong and stuff like that, which I'm fine with. I mean, I've certainly cultivated that mindset, but you, on the other hand, are like the sneaky prankster where people would not expect it, which makes it all the better sometimes.
And it lets me get away with it, I think, more often because I can quietly do something and people, for whatever reason, just assume it's someone else. And they kind of forget that I tend to be the one to bring these pranks to the table. So, you know, I thought that it would be kind of funny to talk about how we developed like this love of pranks. Like for me, this goes definitely back to my high school years. So during that time, this is when there were a lot of prank shows on TV. I loved watching the Tom Green Show.
Oh,
did you ever watch that growing up?
Yes.
Dude, one of the hardest times I ever laughed was when Tom Green pretends to be an employee from Undercutter's Pizza, and he would follow pizza delivery men, and he would run up to the door and try to sell them like he had
remember this episode. pizza guys would get ticked, man.
Yeah, they'd be like, it'll be $16.40, and then Tom Green will open like a tackle box that has all these toppings, and he's like, okay, I'll sell you that pizza for $15, and he's like putting the same toppings. I loved stuff like that. The Jamie Kennedy Experiment was this
that was another great one.
Yeah, it was like the biggest show in the world for like 2 years, and then it disappeared. So I feel like pranks were kind of on everyone's mind. And I had a really good, close-knit friend group in high school that just kept leading to escalating pranks back and forth between the guys and the girls. And it really just developed a love for pranks. For me, it's one of my love languages. Like, if I pull a prank on you, it's because that's a sign of affection, and I like doing that. It goes back to the high school days. So to give you like a couple examples, so Andy from the Fantasy Footballers podcast, who we had on, he was part of this group, and we would just have these TP wars is kind of how it started in our friend groups. And then it just started getting more and more ridiculous. So for example, Andy and I thought it would be so funny to buy 10 pounds of bird seed and just dump all of it on our friend's front porch, hoping that when he would wake up in the morning and open the door, there would just be like 200 birds on his front porch. So it kind of went from like TPing to this giant pile of bird seed. Well, then some of the girls in the group, they really took things to a whole nother level where they stuffed pajamas with newspaper to make it look like a dead body and floated it in my friend's pool. So that way they would wake up and think that there was like someone who had drowned in their pool. And so we got the girls back where we found out they were having a slumber party. And so we got up really early the next morning and we knocked on the front door. The one girl's mom answered, and we brought a bunch of squirt guns and said, can we just run in and raid the girls' room and just spray them? And they're like, yeah, of course, come on in. And then to pay us back, you know, there were some relationships in the group. So like I was dating one of the girls, Emily. One of my other friends was dating this girl, Shannon. And so they put together this group date where we went out to eat, and then they blindfolded us and said they had a surprise in the car. They drove us back to Shannon's house, walked us to the backyard, and then pushed us into the pool. So that that was the end of that date. So this is like the kind of stuff that was going on in high school. And I think it just kind of grew from there, where it just continued into adulthood.
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, I'm like you, right? Like, if I pick on you, it means I like you. You know, like the people that take life way too seriously, you know, it's like, I just have a hard time with that, right? Like, I enjoy picking on people. It's a way of saying like, hey, I feel comfortable with you enough that I can joke with you, and then you can joke with me. And part of that is that you have to be able to take it, right? Like, yeah. I am the most self-deprecating person because, you know, I have no shame. You know, I don't mind if somebody wants to pick on me. You know, I've had, you know, jerks in life insult me, and it's just like, dude, whatever, like, okay, you know, and then that kind of thing. But the history of pranks for me goes back to my childhood, when back in the day we would do sleepovers all the time. Right? Like you'd have that friend's house. You'd be like, hey, I've got like 4 or 5 friends that are sleeping over. I remember one of my friends, his house was like the perfect sleepover house because they had like a fully furnished basement with like a Nintendo and a TV down there, and we could be as loud as we wanted. And the parents were on the second floor, so they were far removed, so we could just stay up all night and act like idiots. But it used to be, you know, whoever fell asleep first in the sleepover was getting something done to them. And this was like, I don't know, 10, like somewhere between 10 and 15. You know, I'm old, so, you know, it gets hazy, you know, as far as that goes. But then it just became this thing where it was like, hey, it was fun to mess with one of your friends. And it was always funny, and everybody took it really well. But that led to, you know, some really good pranks there and kind of just messing with each other. And then it's one of those things like you decide like, this is kind of fun, man. I think I like this, and I think I'm going to do it from time to time.
Dude, that's the number one rule, is never be the first to fall asleep at a slumber party.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, we've established on the show, I'm a night owl. I was never the first one to fall asleep at a party. I was always the last one to bed and usually the first one to rise. But what about you? Would you fall asleep early?
No,
you'd always stay up?
Because I knew, man. Like I knew. So I'll give you a good example, right? I'll share this one because it's fairly quick, and I'm sure we have plenty to talk about, right? But we're doing this slumber party. Everybody knew, like, hey, don't fall asleep, right? And the kid whose house it was, he actually wound up falling asleep first. And so, you got to check, is he actually asleep? Is he out? Or, and this guy's out, man. So one of us goes upstairs to the kitchen and grabs a jar of peanut butter. And while he's sleeping, we smear a dab of peanut butter in his ear. Oh, right? No. Like we just packed it in there. It was creamy peanut butter. It just goes
on the
straight
inside?
On the inside of his ear, like into his eardrum, right?
I am not into this.
Like, I mean, but this is what we did at the time, right? So the funny thing is we're all cracking up, we're snickering, but he doesn't wake up. And then we're like, I mean, okay, like we can't dig the peanut butter out of his ear at this point. So we're just all going to go to sleep, right?
Oh no.
No lie. The next morning we all wake up, like half of us forget about it. And he does not know. This is the best part. He doesn't know he's got an earful of peanut butter, man.
Come on,
we're
how
just
do you not
waiting.
know?
Like we all start giggling and stuff, and we're like, dude, when are you going to realize you've got like a spoonful of peanut butter in your ear right now? He did not know for the longest time, dude. And I had to wait for like my mom to come pick me up. So everybody else had left. And at that point, like I'm upstairs and he's like, I got to take a shower. Like we're going somewhere. He's like, you can just chill in my room and like play Nintendo or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And all I hear is like him like yell. And he's like, what the, like, what is this? And then you just hear, is that peanut butter? Guess you've been washing his hair or something. Realized he had peanut butter in his ear. I mean, it was just that, like, the fact that he didn't even realize it is what made it even funnier. But that was like the childish things, right? Like, that we did back in the day.
Dude, that's insane because you would be able to tell the difference with your hearing. It'd be like one ear under water or like in pancake syrup.
He said, really thick. Because I was cracking up. So when he got out, he said, like, did you do that? And I said, well, it wasn't me, but haha. And then he said, I just thought like I couldn't hear, like I slept on my ear funny or something. So it's like he knew something was wrong, but he never actually like checked it out, I guess. So,
oh man. Did you guys ever do the one hand in hot water, the other one in cold water?
We tried that, but I have never gotten that to work. I think that's an urban legend. Think it works. Yeah, I was going to say, we've tried the whole dip in the hand in the water thing and all that. But anyway, so yes, we love pranks. It's something that I cherish near and dear to my heart. I have learned that you do as well. And I mean, I think we should probably share some of the pranks and stories because you've gotten me. I don't think I've ever gotten you. I don't know that I've ever gotten you. No, but it's coming,
I don't think
Paul.
So.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't think it counts as a prank, but you did try to sneakily leave a Harry Potter board game on our front porch, but my Google Nest camera caught you. And so I texted you and I was like, oh, hey, you dropped off this Harry Potter game. Thanks. And you're like, oh, I guess I got caught. Yeah. That's the one thing. All of these cameras nowadays really cut down on your ability to prank anymore.
It's so tough, man. It's, that's one thing about technology I'm not a huge fan of.
All right, so one of my favorite pranks is one that I pulled on you and your family, so I figure maybe we can lead off with that one.
This one's great, dude. This one's so good.
This one I did love because it's a prank that started 2 years ago, and I think it's still continuing.
It is still ongoing to this day, Paul. Like, this is no exaggeration, and this will make more sense here in just a second when you talk about it, but no lie, this prank is still ongoing like years later.
So I remember one day I was scrolling on Reddit and someone made some kind of side comment about how the best thing that they ever bought was a roll of stickers that were labeled for rectal use only. And they included a link to the Amazon page. And so I click on it and I see I can buy 1,000 stickers that say it. So it looks like at a doctor's office, you might see something labeled for rectal use only. And it was only $8. So I immediately ordered it. And the next time I went to your house, I just put like probably 20 to 22 of these stickers in my pocket and just started putting them everywhere in your house. I was putting it on Sharpies. I was putting it on screwdrivers. And I was trying to find things that would not be found for a long time. Like, your wife had tons of arts and crafts supplies, and I was just grabbing like random paintbrushes, applying this sticker everywhere I could in your house, and you're still sometimes finding them.
The first time I found one, I was like, what is this? Like, because it looks like a sticker that would go on like a pill bottle or something. It's a right. Little small blue sticker, right?
Very small.
Yes, yeah. It's not. And I just remember thinking like, what, for rectal use only? Like, what is, like, why? You know? And then I was like, I showed it to my wife and she's like, well, I didn't put that there. And then I was like, where did this come from? So then we started looking around and we started finding a few. And that's when it was like, okay, like, all right, I get this. This was Paul, you know, and we had a really good laugh about it. And, you know, I thought it was hilarious, man. But then it's the prank that keeps on giving, because 4 days later, I'm in my refrigerator trying to, you know, dig out like the jelly or whatever from the back of the fridge. And, oh no, I was making a sandwich is what it was. And I pulled out the sliced pickles. Uh-huh. And on the back of the pickle jar, there's a thing for rectal use only. It was just like, oh, and that's when like the world opened up and I was like, oh no, like these things are going to be everywhere. And undoubtedly over the course of like the next 3 months, we would find one of these things every 4 days. You know,
oh, man, I love
and
it.
then every single time it would just crack up, and I'd tell my wife, I'd be like, I found another sticker, and she'd be like, where was it? You know, and she was curious. But then this tapers off. We're like, okay, we finally found all the stickers. Like, there's nothing left on this. Great prank, Paul. Like, this was hilarious. Legitimate, like, no exaggeration. A year goes by. I'm going into like the medicine cabinet in our bathroom where there's 50 things in there we've never used before. One of my kids has a owie or I don't know, man. And I'm looking through this medicine cabinet and lo and behold, what do I see? A blue sticker on the back of like a Sudafed box or something.
Sudafed.
And I'm like, this is a year later, man. Like, are you kidding me? And I think I immediately texted you a photo of it. And I was like, Paul, look what I just found. And you were like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure there's still like 10 more in your house somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that was the best part, is that once you figured out it was me, you said something like, I found like 3 of these. And then you're like, I hope I found them all. And I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, I really hope that they sell this house and in 20 years, like they're still finding these when they're packing everything up.
Dude. It's the hope. Best thing ever. Legitimately, the most recent one I found was on the back of like a dry erase marker. And that was, I think it was like 3 months ago. Like, no lie. And I texted you a photo of it and I was just like, the beauty of this one is in my mind, like, I never saw you disappear. Like, yeah. I remember we had a bunch of people over at the house and you were always right there. So then in my head, I'm like, how did you like creep
sneak
around my entire house? Like, how did you put a sticker on the pickle jar, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't remember you digging around at my fridge.
Oh, dude. Yeah. It's all those stealth games that I played growing up. I learned from the best. Yeah. I even went into my Amazon search history, and that goes all the way back to July 2018. So we're almost going on 3 years since I bought that roll of stickers, and I couldn't be happier. I honestly think it's the best $8 I ever spent. If you want bang for your buck, that is such a great way to do it. If you want a slightly even more family-friendly thing to do, buy googly eyes and just put them on everything. And it's so funny if someone just finds, random googly eyes where you can make anything look like a face. Yeah. So that's a great one.
That one was, it's honestly, it ranks up there for me. We love it. Like, it's funny because even my kids knew about it at that point because they were like, what is this? And then they were like, ew. And then it's like, if we find one, they just start giggling and cracking up, and it's like, found another sticker. And they're like, oh, where was it this time? So, yeah, the whole family is really enjoying this.
The worst would be is if there was like some accident and you and Brandy were in the hospital or something, and someone's like going through things in your house. And like, why is all this stuff?
This is a weird family, man.
Yeah, what's up? What's going on in here?
Oh man,
too funny.
All right, so I'm going to share this story could be really long, but I'm going to try to condense it, right? So a good friend of ours by the name of Rob texted me, and it was April Fool's Day. And he texts me and he says, hey, we need to teach our kids how to enjoy April Fools. Do you want to meet up with me and bring your daughter? Because my daughter and his daughter are best friends, right? So he was like, hey, how about we meet up at like 10 o'clock at night? We'll bring a bunch of toilet paper and shaving cream and stuff, and we'll go around and we'll TP friends' houses. And I asked my daughter, I said, do you want to go TP houses? And of course, she was like, yeah!
Oh, yeah.
So we meet up. And we're hitting some of our closest friends' houses. So normal TPing thing, normal shaving cream. We shaving cream their cars and I think we brought some saran wrap and stuff like that. And, standard fare, right?
Right.
But where this gets good is we were going to get you, number one, but you don't have any like trees in your front yard.
No, I just have really tall palm trees.
Yes.
My house cannot be teepeed.
It's
cannot, impossible.
Because we drove by. Because they were like, oh, let's get Paul and Nikki, and we drove by and they were like, there's nothing to
get. All rocks.
Like we could TP like the basketball hoop, but like that doesn't. So you got out of it, right? But I knew without a doubt that we would get blamed for this, right? Like the first person that they're going to blame is me. Like everybody knows, like, hey, we all got TP'd. It was Josh. So what I did is we TP'd our own house. Right? Like now this is
a long con.
You gotta admit, this is a little bit masterful. And when I say TP, we didn't actually TP, but we hung a few strategically placed pieces of toilet paper from the tree in our front yard. And then I took a photo of it and I posted it on Facebook. And I said, looks like somebody was having too much fun tonight, because that completely threw people off the scent. So of course, everybody wakes up the next day and this starts just raging like wildfire as to who was the person that TP'd all these houses. Well, obviously it's somebody that we all know, so it has to be somebody in this smaller group of people. This drama just exploded, dude. This was people accusing people left and right, and this was where the sheer beauty of this comes in, because what happened was I played part of the victim. I said, well, they got me too. So, I want to know who it is. Like we're going to get these guys. Revenge must be had. So I was not in the limelight on this. Then what happened is people started accusing other people. And I would just immediately jump on that and be like, yeah, I bet it was Paul. Like nobody got Paul's house, man. I bet it was Paul. So then everybody would be like, oh, we're going to get Paul so bad. Well, this went around for a while. But eventually they settled on one of our friends, Brandon. So, and of course I just said, yeah, I bet it was Brandon, man. So Andy had the idea, hey, what if we get Brandon and we sign up? We're going to create a listing that says that he has a room for rent in his house for like $100 a month. Now we live in Phoenix, which is a major city, right? So you advertise you have a room for $100 a month. You're going to get a ton of people that want to inquire about that room. So Andy sets up this Craigslist listing and puts Brandon's phone number on there with this fake listing. And I don't think Brandon realized it. Now, you and I were both working with Brandon at the time.
Yeah.
Brandon sends a message to the group and goes, guys, I don't know what happened, but my phone is blowing up, man. And he shows us, and he has like 200 text messages on his phone asking about this room. Now, the beauty of this is Brandon has no idea that everybody blamed him for TPing everybody's houses. And people are retaliating against Brandon, and he has no clue. So,
oh, poor Brandon.
Oh man, it was just the best. It eventually, they could not figure it out. Eventually, what's funny is people figured it out. And one of our friends groups actually said, Josh is conniving enough that he would actually TP his own house to get people to not blame him. And I just went, guys, that's ridiculous, man. Like, come on. Like, all right, my house got gotten too. And it was 100% true. And eventually we did let on that it was us. We blamed our kids. It was the kids really, but we were accomplices. But I love the fact that it just spun off in so many different directions and caused so much havoc amongst our friend group. It was great.
Dude, everyone was treating it like the Serial podcast where it was like, well, I live here, and if someone drove, that would take 20 minutes, and they were at this location. Everyone was trying to figure this out, and it did go on for a couple weeks.
It did, yes.
Until it all got settled.
I've never seen so many people be so interested in trying to solve the mystery of who it was. And
Right.
We were all in the same friend chat, so it was just hilarious to watch this stuff. And from the perspective of I know what happened, was awesome, because I could see when people would start to catch the right trail and then somebody else would steer them, and to be able to just chime in and try to throw people off and accuse people like Brandon, when Brandon's name came up, to just jump on that and then be like, yeah, it was Brandon.
Brandon is sus.
Sorry, Brandon, if you're listening, but
yeah, this is like real life Among Us is basically what you guys were playing, even though Among Us was not even out yet.
Yeah.
That's basically what happened. Oh, man. All right. So another prank of mine that I was very proud of, you ended up being sucked into this with a little bit of unintended collateral damage because you had nothing to do with this prank.
Zero. I was one of the few times I was completely innocent.
That's what makes the story so great, is how you accidentally incriminated yourself in this story. So I thought it would be a really funny idea to buy a whole bunch of license plate holders, the ones that go around the license plate on the back. And you always see those. A lot of times they're just car dealerships or whatever. And I just decided to find the funniest, goofiest ones that I could. And I found a bunch on Amazon that said, "Cowboy butts drive me nuts." And I bought, I think it was 6 or 7 of these. They were a little pricey, but I thought this would be worth spending money on because of the story. And they arrive, and I end up putting them on a couple of friends' cars. I put it on the back of Andy's car. I also put it on the back of Jason's car from the Fantasy Footballers. And I did this when we were all meeting at your house. And so as our hangout was coming to a close, I snuck outside, popped them on the cars. Everyone left. And my hope is that no one would figure this out for at least a couple of days. Otherwise, everyone would immediately assume it would just be me or you. All right. So a couple of days go by, and Andy is pinging everyone. Do you know anything about this, Paul? And I was like, dude, no, but that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. I would totally take credit if that were me. But no, I don't know anything about it. And so time goes on, and then I do it again.
Now, where you forgot to mention that because it was at my house, everybody instantly blamed me.
Right, because they did end up figuring it out within a day. And they realized that the time that they were all together was at your house. And what's really funny, and I'll let you tell this part of the story, because this is where you come into play, because you didn't know that I had done this.
I had zero clue.
At your house.
Yes, I had zero clue.
And so now this is when the footballers are already doing their show. You're doing some work for them. And what ends up happening when you go into work one day?
Dude, I pull up. I have a company vehicle, right? I pull up to their studio. And I go in for a little while. I come back out. As I'm walking out to my car, something looks off about this vehicle, and I can't tell what it is. So I stop for a second and I look, and that's when I see this license plate frame that says "Cowboy butts drive me nuts." And I went,
your car now.
On my work car, on my company car, right? So then I'm like,
right.
How long have I been driving this around? Not knowing that this thing is on my car. This is hilarious. And then I'm kind of like, uh-oh. So I instantly assume that one of them put it on my car. So I take it off. I walk over and I put it on their car. Which instantly incriminates me again, even though I have zero idea what's going on right now.
Dude, and then wasn't there something where you walked into work and Andy just said, "Cowboy butts"?
Yes.
And then you just went, Drive me nuts.
Yes, because
you just knew the phrase.
It's from a movie called 8 Seconds, right? Which I lived in Louisiana, which is next to Texas, where rodeo and stuff is huge. So there's this movie called 8 Seconds that was very popular. And I had no idea, dude. No idea. But I guess they had figured out, hey, everybody was over at my house and everybody found these license plate brackets on their cars. And so when I walk into the studio, they're all chipper and they're smiling and they're like, hey, and Andy just looks at me and he's like, Josh. And I'm like, hey, and he goes, cowboy butts. And I know this movie. So I go, drive me nuts. And they all just start going like, oh, we knew it was you. We knew it was you. And then I'm going like, wait a minute. Like, what are you talking about? And they did not believe me at all. Like, I had no idea that this had gone down. And I'm like, I was just quoting a movie. And they were like, no, man, you know.
I love that me putting on this license plate started to just cycle, where now you're all pranking each other. They think it's you only because you know this stupid little rhyme. And then I did it again. And I might have even done it another time until I ran out of the plates. And finally I came clean, and I just thought it was the funniest thing because it just grew a life of its own.
It was like, normally I'm aware that a prank is happening, at this point, and they knew that somebody was putting these on their cars, but I was completely innocent in a very large portion of this. And then even when I wasn't, like when I thought they put it on my car, I was just like retaliating by putting it on their car. But this went on for a while. I remember, like, I think it took a month or two before either you confessed or they, finally just figured it out. But it was hilarious to see, them trying to guess who it was. I had no idea that I incriminated myself so bad by knowing this stupid movie line, and then there was nothing I could say at that point that convinced them that it wasn't me, because I instantly knew like what the saying was. So it was just, oh man, it was so great.
It could not have gone any better for me. I gotta say, you really were the perfect wingman for that prank. And you had no idea.
I told you, I always wind up being the fall guy, man. Like, yes, like there's times when I deserve it, but even when I don't, I still get blamed for stuff at this point. Which, that was a good one, man. That's another prank that went on for a long time without people figuring out.
Yeah.
All right. This one, I'll mention this one. This is going to be a quick one. I have a couple quick hitters here because some of these are more like just slightly like jokes to play on people than actual pranks. But then I'll get into a couple funnier ones here in a little bit. But we've pulled this on Todd, and this is a great one for anybody listening. Is, everybody uses Discord now, right? Todd has hopped into Discord many a time, and you and I will just instantly pretend like we cannot hear Todd talking.
Right.
And so cause Discord makes that sound when somebody joins the channel, right? And then Todd will be like, hey guys. And then you and I will just start talking to each other and completely pretend like we can't hear Todd at all. And then you'll hear Todd go like, hey, can you guys hear me? And then we'll go like, oh, Todd's in the channel. Like, what's up, Todd? Like,
Todd,
Paul,
is your mic on? Are you on mute?
Paul, can you hear Todd?
No. Can you hear him?
Dude, I can't. Todd, if you can hear us, man, your mic's not working. You might need to reboot or something. You'll just hear him go like, man, like, okay, I'll be right back, guys. Todd joins the channel again. Like, you can tell he rebooted his computer. Like, how about now? And they were like, nope, still can't hear you, Todd.
Well, and Todd likes to do that also, but Todd does it more when we're connected on video. So Todd will just be mouthing words and making really exaggerated hand motions, which always gives it away. But, he'll be talking and make you think that you can't hear him, and he's actually there. So that's a very, very easy, simplistic one anyone can do. Yeah,
you just need one other person to play along, because then it's like, oh man, there must be something wrong with my mic. Discord's not picking up, something's not working. And you can actually keep it going for a little while before it's like, okay, this poor guy's rebooted his computer like 3 times now, so we should probably like let on that we can hear him.
Right. We do actually want to play games at some point.
So, all right. So I'll do one more quick hitter and then I'll pass it back to you. I've done this one at work before, and this is a great one, right? It's pretty easy to pull off. if somebody ever leaves their computer, so you can do this at your friend's house too, right?
Oh,
and I've
no.
done this many a times, right? If somebody ever leaves their computer, you can take a screenshot of their desktop.
I love this one
right?
so much.
Take a screenshot of their desktop and then set that as their wallpaper. So that when they come up to their computer, everything looks kosher, right? It's like, hey, here it is. And then all you do is you right click and you go hide icons, and it will hide the actual active icons. But what you see is the icons from the screenshot that you took, and it will blow people's minds. They will think their computer is completely broken because they will go to start clicking on icons and nothing happens. And it's just the most simple, like easy trick in the world to pull off, because you can set this up in like a minute if you know what you're doing. And it will legit like completely confuse somebody. They'll think their computer's broken. It's pretty funny to watch because you'll just see them start clicking everything. And they're like, what's going on, man? Like nothing's working. Like,
Dude, you totally just reminded me of a few pranks that I completely forgot about. All right, so we've mentioned our friend Curtis on the show a couple times. Curtis has the kind of personality to take things too far.
Yep.
So he will take things to a whole nother level. He and I shared a job together, and he kept changing my wallpaper to be animals acting like animals out in the wild. Okay, now this is at work. All right, we worked for a small business. There were only like 8 of us there. Now, my computer was kind of in the corner, so no one would see it unless they went out of their way to look at my screen. But I was like, Curtis, you can't do this. This is our job. So I locked my computer, and then my boss yelled at me and said, why are you locking your computer? So, of course, I'm not going to like throw Curtis under the bus, but I was like, Curtis, I got in trouble because you're the one setting all these stupid wallpapers. So that was one that happened there. Another favorite of mine was that we would always try to change each other's email signatures.
Oh,
and
yes.
I went for weeks not noticing that mine at the very bottom, my emails were coming from Paul Q. Lehman. It was just a really simple putting Q as my middle name. My middle name's Andrew, but like, you know, it was just our friend Eric did that, and I didn't notice for weeks. I thought that was funny. Another great one is you can add a macro inside all of the Microsoft products. So if someone types you can have it autocorrect to put like the darn.
Yeah.
And so then anytime they type, they're like, you know, oh, did you finish up the darn invoices?
You can do that on phones now too. iPhones are great. So that's a really easy prank to pull on somebody, is just, you can go in there and have any word when they type it out change to another word.
Yeah. Just don't get anyone in trouble at work.
Yes.
Don't be a Curtis in this
don't
case.
do that.
Oh, man. All right. Yeah, I got a couple quick fire ones that I can mention. So one that I really loved is I ended up discovering that you can order custom-made shower curtains and pillows, and stuff like that is more common now. But a few years ago, that was like a brand new thing. And I found a listing on Amazon of someone who was selling shower curtains that just had a giant face of Jeff Goldblum and then a monkey next to him with just like a tropical landscape behind. I don't know why. I don't know why they mashed these two things together on the shower curtain, but I knew I had to buy it. And I have hosted a lot of poker nights in the past. And I thought it would just be really funny to put it up in my own house. And if anyone opens the door, it's just this like 4-foot diameter Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, I have seen this in person, and it is glorious, man.
There is no better conversation starter than someone going to your bathroom and coming out being, what on earth is up with the Jeff Goldblum shower curtain? So my wife hated it. I wanted to keep it up legitimately. I thought it was, no, we're leaving this up forever. Whenever anyone comes over, they're going to see it. She wanted to take it down. And so we did. And then I ended up sneaking it into one of my friends' houses, Jackie and Jonathan, hung it up on their shower. We left it there.
This is what how do you hang up a shower curtain in somebody's house, Paul?
Dude,
you are a ninja, man.
Maybe in another life, I would be like a really good thief or something. I don't know. But I just rolled it all up, folded it best I could, at the time, I think it was in the middle of winter. And so I just put it up my sleeve, and it was just literally inside my coat arm, and just walked right in with it. And, oh, hey, I got to use your bathroom, and just, put it up. So, I love things like that. On Amazon, I had also found where you could buy a book that was called How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety and Abstinence, Drugs, Satanism, and Other Dangers That Threaten Their 9 Lives. It's a legitimate book of 144 pages that actually cover all of those topics.
Oh my goodness.
And I ordered 4 or 5 of them. And if I ever went to a friend's house, that was like a really small book, but I would just sneak it into the middle of their bookshelves, knowing someday they're going to see this. And it's such a funny title. And then I would always leave a message right inside the cover. So I would write things like, this book was really a blessing to our family while we spoke to our cats, and we hope it blesses yours as well. Love, Paul. So that way, at least it also had my name on it, and they would know it was me. Because I figured that's a more long-term, like, everyone has a bookshelf that has books that they haven't looked at in 10 years.
And you want to know when somebody discovers this prank, too.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So that was another very, very little easy one that I was a big fan of. All right.
So this one, I'm gonna actually advertise a product for this one.
Okay.
I don't know. Man, if you don't know, you will know at some point. But okay. So there is a product that is called Liquid Ass. Okay.
Okay. I am aware.
Are you aware of this product? Okay.
Yes,
So this product is by far the stinkiest thing that you will ever smell in your life. Okay. And when I say stinky, I don't mean like stink bomb stinky where it's just really sulfur rotten egg stinky. This is like the most foul thing that could come out of a human being stinky that is possible. Okay. Like there is this oddly natural smell to it to where it, like you legit think it's coming from somebody, not something, right? Like it's not like a stink bomb. Right.
But it's just a very concentrated extract of that.
It's very, very concentrated. So my wife gave me a bottle of this for Christmas one year because she knew that I would love this. And shortly after that, we went over to her parents' house to play cards and just hang out. Well, we're married. We get along well with her parents. We're all very comfortable. So it's not unheard of for me to get blamed for certain smells that might arise, while the family's hanging out. Sure. So in this case, we're playing cards and I know what this stuff smells like, man. It is absolutely terrible. So we're playing cards and, it's in a little spray bottle. So I have to like cough to like cover it and I spray it under the table. And it takes a second or two for this to kind of waft out. And man, the smell hits and instantly they are just like, Josh! Oh my goodness. And I just play the part. I'm just like, guys, I'm really sorry, man. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. Like right now, I had no idea that it was going to smell like that. Like I'm really embarrassed right now. Like, I'm so sorry. My wife knows what's going on. So she starts just laughing, crying, and it's just terrible. So the beauty of this product is that it dissipates after like 5 minutes. It completely goes away. It's completely harmless. There's no like long-term effects. So 10, 15 minutes later, I just spray it under the table again.
Oh no.
And it is just like it, a few seconds later, here comes this. And once you smell this smell, dude, you will never forget this smell. And so her parents are instantly like, they start like almost gagging, right? Like we're sitting at this little table in our dining room and they're like, Josh! And then they're like, ugh. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, it's like this stuff is the best stuff in the world, man. Like buy a bottle of it. I threaten my kids. My kids were having a sleepover, right? This is the beauty of being a parent. My kids are having a sleepover. I walk into the room. I go, hey guys, how's everything going? And they're like, oh, hey dad. Like, yeah, we're playing and blah, blah, blah. And I just whip out the Liquid Ass bottle and I just spray like 2 pumps in the air and their eyes just, they get super big. Their jaw falls to the ground and in like slow motion, they just go like, no. And then I just close the door and I just sit there and hold the door closed. and you just, you like, you can hear them tugging on the door, man. The door's rattling. My daughter's friend is like, oh, what is that? I wouldn't let him out of the room for a while. It was great. But yes, dude, this stuff makes for the absolute best pranks ever.
So I don't recall if you ever ended up seeing Anchorman or not, but essentially that's the Sex Panther cologne scene where they spray it and everyone's running down the halls. The alarms are going off and they're all yelling what it smells like. And, that's
funny tidbit, just because it's so popular. The Mark Rober videos where he does the glitter bomb, when he goes to the glitter bomb 2.0, he doesn't advertise it, but that's the product. That's liquid ass. Cause he is like, dude, we've upgraded the fart spray on this. And he was like, let me tell you, this stuff is the foulest stuff I've ever smelled. And that's what they're actually using, in the glitter bombs. So highly recommend it. It's cheap. A bottle's like $6, man.
You're probably alarming Brandy's parents where they're like, you need to see a doctor.
They
like,
legit actually said that at one point. I got them like 3 or 4 times before finally like they figured out what was going on. But there was definitely a conversation where they were concerned for my health because of that. And my wife is just dying every single time, man. She is just tears rolling down her face. She knows what's going on. She's just watching her parents' reaction to this and how they're blaming me and they're concerned for my health and everything else. It was great.
Oh my goodness. How funny. Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a couple more that I can kind of think of. I don't think any of them are terribly long stories per se, but since we've been talking about Andy a lot, since he's one of my oldest friends, he's been the target of a lot of these pranks. I discovered that on Amazon, you can order these, oh man, what are they called? Like the fathead stickers.
Yeah, the wall cling, like giant stickers.
Exactly. Yeah. So these are really popular for getting like sports athletes, and you can decorate a room and it's like a life-size full printout of a person. And the great thing about these are that they're like non-stick. You just put it on a surface, but you can peel it right back off. It doesn't leave like residue or anything. Well, again, someone took a bunch of super goofy stock photos online and made these massive fathead cling stickers. And one of them was just a really old woman using an inhaler.
I've seen this and it's funny.
It's the most random sticker. I don't know why anyone decided to make it. And all the comments on the Amazon listing are just hysterical, talking about how, oh yeah, now I get to look at this friendly old woman every day. I put it on my mirror and, you know, just no one is buying this for real. Everyone's buying it to prank someone else. And I really had to decide where I wanted to use this because this was kind of pricey. It was $25. And this is, you know, I can only hit one target once.
Right.
So we were going over to Andy's house and I decided that I would smuggle it in. And if none of the kids were around, because they have a bunch of kids, we have a bunch of kids, it's sometimes hard to try to pull this stuff off. And they were still pretty new in their current house. And I just said, I don't even know what door is what. I'm just going to open a door in the hallway. I'm going to put this up as quick as I can. And my hope is that it would be on the back side of a door so they wouldn't even see it entering the room, but they'd close it and then get scared. That was the hope. So I put this on the inside of their closet door, and then they discovered it, I think, a few days later. And so no one suspected me. And Andy thought this was like some grand scheme of someone making fun of him for having asthma. And so it had nothing to do with any of that. But Andy's like, it's someone who knows I have asthma and they're making fun of me. And I'm just thinking like, this was just a totally random picture that I thought looked funny. And so finally I fessed up to it. But they said it was actually in the closet where Andy kept his inhaler. And I think they had a breathing machine. So the fact that that was the door that I picked.
It was the perfect location.
Perfect location. Totally just at random. Yeah. So the asthma sticker was a fun one. Another one that I really liked is there was a website that went live a couple years ago called Cat Facts.
Oh, this one is great, man.
Oh, I thought this was such a great concept. Basically, you would pay a couple of bucks and you would put in a phone number and you could set a certain frequency and it would send a set number of texts just giving random facts about cats to someone. And of course, no one would sign up for themselves this just became how you would prank your friends. So you would pay $3, and now it's going to spam 30 cat facts, and you could choose, do it once an hour, do it once a day, do it once a week, and then you could just let it go. Well, they also had other facts, and so I signed up my friend Jackie for cat facts, and I signed up Andy for Nicolas Cage facts. And I set it for once a day, and I think it was like $3. It was pretty cheap, but what a great idea. Super simple. I thought it was very funny.
People would just get this random text, where it's like, do you know that the Australian blue hair cat can jump 12 feet in the air and hunts its prey only at midnight or something like that? And you would just be like, what? Why am I getting this text? Like, what?
Did you know that Nicolas Cage used to vacation in Palo Alto back in his childhood? Yeah, it was just like totally random stuff. And totally harmless.
Yeah, that's a good website. Now, it's funny, too, because now there's starting to become a little bit more of those. Like, I know you can get the little, it's not like a greeting card, but it's like a little speaker thing that makes like cricket sounds that it's double-sided. Yeah. So you can like put it under somebody's TV stand, and it'll make this cricket sound like once every 3 hours. But it's just enough to like drive somebody crazy, but not give away where the location is. Which is pretty funny. Like, there's a lot of these little things. You can mail a potato to somebody, where it's like they just get a potato in the mail. It's like, it doesn't even come in an envelope. It's just like, here's your potato. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, what? Like, there's a lot of those things, man. That's what we need to do, man. We need to start a prank company.
But not glitter bombs. Glitter bombs should be illegal.
It's funny because I'm a fan of the glitter bomb. Like,
oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, it was a good friend of the footballers, the podcast, Andy and them. And they had asked, hey, can you send him the stuff? And I said, sure. But I made a homemade glitter bomb where I just cut up like a piece of paper into like a gajillion tiny little pieces and then like poured it in the envelope. And they were like, there's no chance that that's ever going to work. And then sure enough, like 3 days later, the guy like texted a photo and it was all over his lap and everything. And I was I told you guys.
Oh, at least it wasn't real glitter.
Oh, real glitter would be mean. Real glitter is permanent and forever. Like, people say diamonds are forever, but glitter is forever, man.
The last thing that I'll bring up here, even though I have so many that I could still bring up, but the one thing that I did not do, but I was very tempted to do, was during the 2016 presidential election season. We have a lot of friends that have very strong political leanings, and I legit looked up pricing to get magnetic bumper stickers and yard signs of the other candidate. So I thought this would be way too funny, except I legitimately thought that some of our friends would get too mad about this.
See, it used to be that would be a hilarious thing, but nowadays, like, people take their politics way too serious, man. And it's almost becoming like you can't pick on people about that stuff anymore, which is sad.
Yeah, in my head, I could already hear, well, now my neighbors have all these misconceptions of me and I'm mad and upset, so I just decided not to. But I did think there would be nothing funnier than our friends walking out and seeing a sign of the candidate that they couldn't stand right there in their front yard. So I did not do that.
Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Yeah. Any last ones for you, Josh?
No, I mean, I've got a million, but it's like, I think we've covered a lot of the good ones. Plus, I know we're running low on time, but it's come join us in Discord, because this was a completely spontaneous conversation that popped up. It's stuff like this, which is why we love our community. I mean, I love talking about this stuff. I love having a good time. I know you love having a good time. So hopefully this episode came across as fun for everybody. Like, I know I enjoyed having a good laugh about it as well. But if you liked it, let us know. If you're like, hey guys, shut up and stick with gaming, let us know.
That's fine. Like, we'll take it like men.
Yeah. I mean, we can take it, but yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'll bring up one last thing.
Oh, yes.
So my latest prank actually just happened like 2 weeks ago. So my friend Jonathan was having a birthday, and it's a running joke of ours that he really loves Golden Girls. Like, legitimately, still to this day,
Paul, that's a good show.
Golden Girls.
Don't you talk bad about Golden Girls, okay?
All right. Golden Girls was fine. I wasn't a huge fan, but he talks about it all the time. So my wife actually found out that you could order a dozen roses, which is actually Betty White, and they are in wire stands that you can stick in someone's front yard. Kind of like the old pink flamingo prank that you could do. And so it's 12 pictures of Betty White and then one big sign that says a dozen roses for your birthday. And so we put those in his front yard and he was delighted. And I'm sure he'll pass it on to someone else.
I was going to say, he's probably collected those and is keeping them safe somewhere at this point, just knowing how he feels about Golden Girls.
Yeah. He might keep one as a souvenir and pass on the others. So anyway, that's the latest one that we included my kids in. They were delighted to be able to join in on that one.
Kids love being able to do that stuff, man. They love
really
it.
do.
Yes, absolutely. You want to have a good time, invite your kids to prank somebody. Teach them the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we are out of time here for today. So like Josh said, come find us on Patreon, which you can find at multiplayersquad.com. And then you can come join the Discord community and share your own pranks. You can also hit us up on social media at multiplayerpod. And also make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Right now, that work is on hold because Todd is in the middle of a move across the country, but I do know that he'll be returning to video editing, and our channel on YouTube is Multiplayer Podcast. So if you subscribe there, you'll be notified as soon as more content goes up. And then we will be back with an episode on Thursday for This Week in Gaming. And if you're curious to know what the next deep dive will be, we will be jumping into It Takes Two. So if you want to get in a little bit of game time, you'll know what we're talking about, and that episode will be out a week from today. All right, we'll see you guys on Thursday for This Week in Gaming.
All right, see you, everybody.